All right, thank you all for being here. It is now my pleasure to welcome the first company of the Startup Battlefield Finals. Please welcome Crate, presenting our Christian Lutz and Jadok Batlog.
Hi, we're really thrilled to be here. Thank you so much. I'm Chris, this is Jodok, and we're the founders of Crate, your elastic data store. We revolutionized the way how you can build scalable backends. If you build a mobile or web app, then you know this setup. You have this single node database in the back, and if you're really successful, this gets really big, and sometimes it also comes down. That's why the future of databases is distributed. It's really the only way how you can build a scalable, reliable backend, just as the big successful web scale companies do it. But building that today, even today, is really hard. You have to combine a lot of different technologies. Like a relational DB, you have your unstructured data, so you add a document DB. For your images and videos, you add a blob store, and then you nail a search engine on top. It's not only difficult to combine these things and keep them running. When you then scale from millions to billions of records, the hard stuff comes. Syncing, how to shard, scaling turns out to be more difficult than you thought, and replication issues keep you awake at night. We know that. In our previous companies, we have built Germany's Facebook and YouTube, one of the largest websites of Germany, and in Europe, actually. We delivered enterprise-grade applications to mobile network operators, but also Skype and Yahoo. So for all you guys out there with these mountains of big data, we brought Crate, your elastic data store. It gives you real-time SQL in a distributed environment, and unless most of the competition in a modern architecture which makes it extremely simple to install, run, and program. It gives you everything that you need to run a scalable backend. It comes with the most important drivers for programming languages. But let's have a look at Jodok and switch to him for a quick demo.
Hi. Setting up a distributed system, all of you know there is no piece of cake. But I'll show you how to do this with Crate, which is much easier. First of all, let's launch 12 instances for this demo on Google Compute Engine. OK, here they are. Now I'm going to use Docker to download the latest Crate image, start the daemons there. While they are spawning, let's look at the admin UI. It shows all the nodes that are connected to the cluster. Here's the first one. And the rest just joined. For sake of time, we compress this video, but it takes less than 1 minute in real time. So you don't want to run on the cloud? No problem. You just install Crate on-premise, or even on consumer-grade PCs, like this Intel NUCs. We use them to build our Alpine cluster. It's an 8-node cluster, fully functional, and you see here the admin UI. Those of you running a 24/7 business, you might ask, what happens if a node goes down? You know, weird things happens in data centers. But the best thing is, Crate doesn't care. It detects a missing node, removes it from the cluster, and immediately starts the self-healing process. It's recreating the missing shards, and the best thing is, during that time, all the clients can access the data. They even won't notice that the node goes down. And soon later, the system is back to health again. So let's look at the real-world application. You know Apple's Health app, and it includes a step tracker that is continuously monitoring your steps. So let's say we have 5,000 users that do about 7,000 steps a day. Holy, in 1 year, that's 12.7 billion records. Going forward, all of the developers will be confronted with that amount of data. So we've preloaded the sample data into our cluster. It has 2 tables, users and steps. Now I use the built-in console to query the data, to see how many records we have in there. That was an easy query. Let's look at something more difficult. So I'm creating a histogram of the steps our user did once a day over an entire year. We can do this in 30 milliseconds. That's just a fraction of traditional systems. Thank you. Back to the slides and Chris, please.
So this is the old world. You have this big central database, and Crate makes those obsolete. Actually, you can now install your database on each application server. And this allows you to, with this elastic data store, to scale just with the success of your application. In the past months, we have tested and piloted Crate with developers around the world. Just to give you an idea, Internet of Things startups that store time series data, telcos that consolidate their warehouses sources into a real-time store, in advertising, do a real-time analytics, or replacing big MySQL backends for web-scale companies. We're an open-source software, and on top we sell enterprise licenses. Crate is available for download now. Just go there and start your own cluster in less than a minute. But also, we invite anybody who really signs up today to get an onboarding session with our CTO and chief architects to get the perfect fit for your use case. We are Crate. We're on a mission to bring distributed SQL backends in the hand of every developer. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
All right. Great job, guys. Judges, maybe you want to jump in?
It's a great pitch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right down to the last second. So can you just maybe simply set out where is the real invention? Is it the orchestration on a number of other open source platforms? Or is it in the search functionality? If you have to really talk about where your IP is and where the secret source is, it'd be great if you could tease that out for us.
So we're standing on the shoulders of very established open source core modules like Netty, Lucene,
Sure.
Elasticsearch, and we're using also Facebook Presto as an SQL parser. And however, we packaged that and extended it with our IP on how you actually do distributed SQL commands and run that over in cluster and make it very easy for the user without having to learn new languages.
So it was great. I think also it was a great pitch, and you're actually solving a huge problem that I think as you were saying, every company is going to face this problem now or later. I guess for me, the big question is, you talked a little bit about it, but how do you sell your product properly? Because how do you get the implementation to be quick? How do you get the process? Because people don't necessarily want to take out a database and put in a new database. It's a cumbersome process, takes a long time. How do you deal with that problem?
So first, we make it very easy to migrate the data using SQL simply. And being open source, people also look at the code and the quality of the code and build up the initial trust. And then they just try it out usually. And we see them being active on GitHub and Stack Overflow over maybe 4, 8, 12 weeks. And then suddenly they decide to actually deploy it productive. And in terms of the usability, I think this is the core differentiation where we put most effort in it. It's not just a pitch. You can actually go download and install a cluster in 1 minute. And it took quite some effort to do it. So hence lowering the barrier to get into Crate.
So as Matthias already said, I think it's a real problem that you solve. I think you have good backgrounds. So my question would more be on what did you do before? Why is it the passion for this database stuff, and how did it develop?
Yeah, so the thing is, everybody tells you crazy building yet another database, but we have seen this problem really in our own lives. I've been dealing with Hadoop and all of this technology, React, Cassandra, whatever you name it. This is good technology for some part. But for the customers, we've been solving in our service business, building scalable backends for many years. And there's nothing like that is so easy to install. It was always, we want to bring this to the power of every developer. So when I was CTO at StudiVZ, we had about 80 developers there. And of course, we had a core team that was able to scale MySQL like Facebook scale, 150 MySQL clusters. But the normal developer, just building a mobile app and he wants to focus on his mobile app and having a scaling backend, he doesn't have the possibility to hire a senior backend MySQL Hadoop specialist. He just wants a database that scales as easy as his backends. And that's our mission, bringing our knowledge into this distributed SQL engine, because that's what it's about, being able to orchestrate lots of hardware with very simple commands. And the know-how of our team is for that. So that's our mission.
Okay, and competition is one question, and you said that you raised 1.2 million. Whom did you get it from?
DFJ Esprit in London, Gil Dibner, and Sunstone Capital, Nikolai Neiholm. And in terms of the competition, what we see in the use cases, and which is also what we are going against, are this mix of technologies I tried to lay out. So for example, MySQL with Solr, MongoDB with Elasticsearch, and all other variations of that. And then some people mix us in terms of competition that we're like in this Hadoop SQL accelerator space. We're not. This is batch-oriented. It's not really suited to make massive write operations, inserts, and updates. And so that's a different category.
Okay.
Sure. You've been going for about 15 months then, right, since founding. How have you progressed versus your expectations? You know, how's the product versus where you thought you'd be at this time?
So we developed quite a long time using stuff that we did before also. And then early May, we opened on GitHub, simply opened it, and open source said, hey, come on, start. And so the first people started. I think we're pretty thrilled with what happened in the past weeks now. We are now at 10,000 server downloads and 40,000 client downloads. We see already over 1,000 different productive clusters that have been started and are operating in various countries. And we're seeing the first contributors also that, for example, the Ruby driver, the Node.js driver, the community just did it and said, we need that for that. And that this is, we didn't think it happened that fast. But of course, we have a long way to go and to build that much bigger.
Have you sold any enterprise licenses yet?
So the original plan was and is that in Q1 we'll introduce the first enterprise license to sell. It will basically, for example, the open core has a copy to, copy from command, and in the enterprise you will have Apple kind of point-in-time recovery with a slider where you go back and forth with the history of your data. And so while this will be coming, we already have now won 3 enterprises that actually pay us now. As they start using it productive, and we're surprised by that, actually.
What businesses are they in?
Sorry?
What businesses are they in?
One, it's the company Cupertino that actually replaces their MySQL backend, and other company is a social community for football lovers, and the third one is an advertising network that does online real-time auctioning of ads with a high throughput, like 5,000 ad requests per second, which is 500 million a day.
But we met a lot of just startups at Startup Valley coming from the hackathon that heard about us, attended a webcast. We had an O'Reilly webcast there, been at OSCON, and these are just a lot of just normal users. They're trying to build their application. So of course, we see like doing big proof of concepts where we're working with companies over 2 or 3 months, battling out other technologies, but it's the mass of developers that just check out software and then use our thing. So we want to build this up from the ground, and then later on also enter this enterprise space basically bottom up.
And, but how much money are you going to need to build it up to that point?
I mean, we're doing just a seed extension now to be able to actually go also to the Valley and have we hired the first developer relations manager that will be in the same time zone helping them. And with this seed extension, we're going to hope to get the traction to do a Series A in Q1 to Q2 next year.
How much?
5 million.
Yeah.
So what do you see as your biggest challenge? What is keeping you awake at night?
I mean, certainly to get the traction among developers and to get like a huge adoption with a broad number of developers. So among the two of us, Jorok is taking care about this part. I'm more on the business development for the bigger licenses. And the way how we do that with the developers is that we're very active on every developer conference we know and hear about and go there, attending the top meetups in the big important cities, and working with paid traffic, producing relevant content about the problems people have and try to get them on the webpage by that.
So I think a very important thing is the balance between open source and enterprise. That's a play very hard to play. So I've been acting in the board of foundation of ZOAP and Plone Foundation, where we were building up a global community in the Python space. And out of that, I learned we really did bad in monetization, and it's like the community was healthy there. But on the other hand side, I also see like just businesses focusing on closed source and doing enterprise things. So this balance between there is really hard to find, because for getting traction, the open source community and the healthy open source community is there. And if you're adding value, and we really want to add value for enterprises, they're also willing to pay for us. So that path, and I think companies are always adjusting between that. So we are a development technology company by heart, but we always want to play the enterprise thing. And that's also like representing the two of us. We're working together since 8 years. Christian, very successful in the business area, and I, strong tech background. And that's kind of also representing also the struggles we have in decisions to make between open source and enterprise stuff. But that's the challenge, and that's what keeps us going here.
No, but that's exactly the art that you have to get right between the community, but the commercial side, and kind of build them both. But you seem to have a great handle on it. I have a question. If you fast forward and if you think about a scenario in which you're successful, if you're successful, somebody is probably less successful in terms of an existing vendor. Who is that? Is that MySQL? Who else is going to suffer if Crate does well? And what does that mean in terms of the competitive dynamics that you're going to have to overcome?
Well, MySQL is like the super standard. They will never suffer, I guess. Yeah. But I think...
Never say never, but yeah.
Yeah, never say never. I think there are a lot of existing technologies that don't have the ease of use, and they don't have the, let's say, the simplicity how to install and operate. Take Cassandra, take Spark SQL, take Couchbase. So there are a lot of players, and we think that the way we do it, we somehow solve the problem that you have to nail stuff together, and this will replace some of those companies. And depending on the use case, you drop your blob store that you would eventually otherwise have added, or you don't need the search engine because it's built in.
From a technology perspective, it's definitely the large single-noded stuff, super expensive hardware, redundant power supplies, error-correcting RAM, fiber channel arrays, and that's where a lot of money is in. And this being replaced by commodity hardware, I think some big vendors will have a hard time because open source software and commodity hardware is challenging them.
It's a little bit like, you know, when Linux came out. So you have these IT guys that say, oh, this open source distributed stuff, it will never work, this kind of attitude. And also we talked to one very big corporate in the automotive space, and after only hours of talking to them, we realized with commodity hardware, they mean 10,000 per server, and we're talking about $900 per server, and completely changing the cost structure for them. But they are not used to use consumer SSDs because they are afraid of them going down. But this is really the cool thing with Crate. You just don't care, and then you just replace it.
On Monday you replace it, you leave it over the weekend, but they don't want to place it in data centers. So that's, I think, the big change. And also like Docker. I mean, Docker is perfect for our
Two more sentences.
Okay, Docker is like one of the first guys moving in that space about how containers work, how you utilize hardware. It's not having a big machine where you put on a VMware and create 8 small machines. It's really about how to scale out on the hardware and being able to orchestrate that thing. And that's, we're not sure
where... All right, that's 2 good sentences.
Thank you.
Some good comments in there. All right, that was great. You guys did an awesome job. Well done.
Thank you very much.